This is our documentary for intercultural management. This is presented to you by Tim, Zoe, and Ali. I am Zoe. For us to talk about the culture in Vietnam, we had an interview with one of our peer students, Mike Van. He helped us by talking about norms and values of the country, the religion, and the power in culture.
We also interviewed Svetlana. Svetlana is from Bulgaria and she helped us to find out more about the Bulgarian culture based on religion, norms and values, and power.
Using the Tamna Model, I compared the culture of Vietnam and Bulgaria. The Tamna Model consists of 7 dimensions. As you may know, in Vietnam, the oldest person in the family is the most important. Bulgarian culture is all about the bond between members of the family. Second, they like to work alone in Vietnam because they don't like to work with people outside their families. Working alone and with other people is equal in Bulgaria. Third, expressing your feelings is not very common in Vietnam, particularly if it is negative. It's natural in Bulgaria to share your feelings. Furthermore, working full days is very common in both countries, so there's a larger chance for growth. And the status in which you were born is static in Vietnam. It's hard to get higher. This is not much the case in Bulgaria. People in Vietnam are still strict, and the Bulgarians are a little bit more lenient. At last, there's a wide gap between wealthy and poor in both nations.
The Trompenaars cultural dimension model is about several dimensions that you can use and see on this slide. For the first dimension, the universalism with particularism, I'm going to describe you with Vietnam and Bulgaria. In Vietnam, people treat each other with respect, and that's very clear subject in this country. In Bulgaria, they are more focused on relationships. For individualism and communitarianism, is Vietnam very individual, and Bulgaria is a bit of both. Um, for the specific and the views, is Vietnam does not express. In Vietnam, it's not common to express feelings. In Bulgaria, it's more effective. People are more effective. They are care more about relationships. For the fourth one, neutral and effectiveness, they're both very effective. They work very hard. They work 24/7 to achieve their goals. For achievement and description, it's hard to work the way up in Vietnam. You have to work extremely hard, and it's nearly impossible to climb up. Climb up. In Bulgaria, it's a bit of the same, but it's more easy to become better and go to proper school. For sequential time and synchronous time, people are very strict in Vietnam. But in Bulgaria is that as well, but they're not that strict as in Vietnam. And for internal direction and external direction is that there are great difference between the poor and rich, and that's why it's an internal direction. That's because it's all from the inside. People who are rich want to be rich, and people who are poor cannot get up that easy.
I will be discussing the Lewis model, starting off with a bit of context. The Lewis model was introduced by Richard Lewis, a British linguist who traveled to more than 130 countries. And Lewis noticed many cultural differences between these countries, and he wanted to create an overview of these differences. Therefore, he created the Lewis model. The Lewis model divides all of mankind into 3 different categories. These categories are multi-active, linear-active, and reactive. Starting off with multi-active. Multi-active people are more emotional, using unrestrained body language. This category does not focus on one thing at a time, and they do not really use planning and therefore lack structure as often seen. According to our interviews, both the Bulgarian and the Vietnamese cultures are not multi-active cultures. And what about linear active? Well, planning is more important for linear active people, They are polite but also straightforward. Planning, structure, and facts are really important. They favor science and rationalism above spiritualism and religion. According to our interviews, the Bulgarian culture does resemble the linear active culture to a certain extent. Svitolina claims that religion is declining in Bulgaria, suggesting that rationalism is more important. Also, men and women tend to have equal rights, something that is often seen in linear active cultures. Also, hierarchy is less visible and the elderly are also less important. Finally, we have reactive. Reactive people are less talkative. They like to listen to others, and as the name also suggests, they respond to others' actions. They are also very indirect, meaning they will not be straightforward, they will not be quickly insulting someone. They are very person oriented, caring a lot about family and friends. They are also often more introverted, avoiding eye contact and small talk. According to our interview, the Vietnamese national culture is a great example of the reactive culture. Mi claimed that Vietnamese people were not straightforward, they tried to not insult others, and according to me, hierarchy is also important as the elderly are often seen as status holders. And finally, raising your voice can also be seen as impolite.
In conclusion, there are clear differences between these two cultures. According to the Lewis model, the Bulgarian culture is a linear active culture, and the Vietnamese culture can be seen as a reactive culture. According to the Hofstede model, both countries are equal. According to the Trompenas cultural dimension model, the two countries are different on the basis of things like individualism. We can conclude that there are many differences between the cultures, but also many similarities. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you now have a clearer understanding of the differences.